Thank you so much for watching. I love sharing these romantic stories and ideas with you. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more heartwarming romantic content every week. See you in the next one. Chapter 1. The Alpha Mask. The Adams estate was a monument to lineage, cold granite and older money. Rowan Adams stood in the expansive mahogany-paneled office of his father. The scent of the man's potent, unadulterated pine and ozone alpha pheromones thick enough to choke on. Rowan could feel the faint, irritating stickiness of the powerful, newly applied alpha scent booster patch beneath the crisp collar of his shirt, a necessary shield against this room and rooms like it. Gareth Adams, a powerful, middle-aged alpha whose presence commanded any space, didn't look up from the financial reports spread across his desk when his own son entered.
You understand the gravity of this position, Rowan.
His voice was low, heavy, and lacked the slightest hint of warmth. Rowan adjusted the cuffs of his bespoke suit, a gesture designed to project confidence he didn't naturally feel.
Yes, Father. Campaign manager for Aleksander Silverson.
It's more than a job. It's an investment.
Gareth finally lifted his gaze. Those Adams family eyes, cold, critical blue, landing on Rowan.
We secured this role for you. Don't forget that. A Silverson mayoral campaign is a platform we can manipulate for our own benefit. A highly visible, highly respectable platform.
Rowan swallowed, forcing himself to meet the gaze.
I won't disappoint the family name, sir.
See that you don't. You've been given a second chance to prove you can handle real responsibility, something that requires dominance and strategic vision.
The word dominance hung over him. A silent but searing reference to Rowan's natural beta design. Gareth leaned back, steepling his fingers.
Now, this Silverson boy, Alek, idealistic, foolishly so. He speaks of the unheard, community centers, and ending generational entitlement. It's all theater, Rowan. Nonsense. Political suicide, if you ask me.
Rowan had spent the last week absorbing every line of Alek's platform. He found himself, shamefully, agreeing with some of it, but he pushed the thought aside.
His base is energized by it, Father. It's effective messaging, though the policy details are certainly not optimal for our interests.
Precisely,
Gareth sneered.
He won't win the establishment vote, but that doesn't matter to you. This campaign is about exposure. You will learn how the system works from the inside, gain the respect of the old families by running a tight, disciplined ship, and then, regardless of the election outcome, you will parlay this into a senior role on a real Alpha's team, perhaps a governorship.
He paused, his scent of pine intensifying, a subtle Alpha warning.
Your only job, Rowan, is to make the Silverson campaign look flawless. You are his image, his control, his anchor to reality. Do not let his foolish idealism derail your future. Do not, under any circumstances, allow him to become a political liability before you have extracted the maximum value from this opportunity.
Rowan knew the real message. Do not fail, because failure means proving you are only a beta.
I understand,
Rowan said, his voice completely monotone, but his ambition was a cold, sharp point in his chest.
I will ensure Mr. Silverson's campaign is managed with absolute precision. His political beliefs may not be optimal, but the platform is. I will not squander it.
Good.
Gareth waved a dismissive hand.
Now go. Go and be the Alpha you are paid to be.
As Rowan hurried from the suffocating office, closing the heavy door behind him, he instinctively lifted a hand to the back of his neck, checking the seam of the scent patch. It was secure. The lie was in place. He smoothed his expression into the mask of confident authority needed to manage Eastridge's rising, complicated political star.
Alek Silverson.
The name felt heavy on his tongue. He had to make the Alpha win, for his career and for the terrifying hope that by doing so, maybe, this successful lie could finally turn him into the man his father wanted. Chapter 2. First Impressions. The next morning, Rowan was in the campaign headquarters, a meticulously leased space in a downtown skyscraper, far more functional and scent-neutral than the oppressive grandeur of the Adams estate. He was early, running through the agenda he'd prepared, his artificial pine leather scent booster working overtime. He needed to establish authority immediately. Alek Silverson arrived exactly 5 minutes late. Not apologetically, but with the composed confidence of a man whose time was simply more valuable than punctual. He was dressed in a simple dark suit, but his winter black cedar and clean ozone scent, real, powerful, yet strangely grounding, filled the room instantly, making Rowan's pheromone-fueled anxiety spike.
Mr. Adams,
Alek said, extending a hand. His grip was welcoming and firm, despite the reputation of his father's more conservative political views.
I appreciate the urgency. I'm eager to see what you have planned for the next 6 weeks.
It's Rowan, sir, and thank you for the opportunity.
Rowan corrected smoothly, maintaining eye contact.
I've drafted a revised messaging schedule, focusing on the small business owners. They're the soft alpha vote we need to peel away from the incumbent.
Alek nodded, moving toward the conference table.
Let's see it.
Before Rowan could launch into his presentation, a quiet knock came at the door.
Come in, Eli.
Alek called out. The tone was less formal than the one he used with Rowan. Elijah Vaux, the young man Rowan had briefly glimpsed at a Christmas dinner party, entered. He was dressed plain but neat, carrying a thin folder and a cup of black coffee. His presence was immediately distinct. He carried none of the aggressive confidence of the alphas who typically circled Alek, nor the traditional deference of the social omegas. He was focused on the task. Rowan felt a sudden, mild confusion. There was a scent about Eli. Rain-washed spring fields and a hint of lime zest. But it was almost imperceptible, muted. It was the scent of an Omega, Rowan realized, but one that was heavily controlled, perhaps through blockers or simply strong willpower. Alek turned to Rowan.
This is Eli Vaux. He's been invaluable to the campaign's grassroots policy analysis. Elijah, this is Rowan Adams, our new campaign manager.
Eli offered a brief, polite nod, not extending a hand, which Rowan appreciated. Physical contact was a risk when his scent was a manufactured lie.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Adams. I've prepped the analysis on the Eastridge Transport Initiative you asked for.
Good, Rowan said, his tone instantly becoming stricter, professional. Eli was a distraction, an Omega who was far too close to the candidate, a liability to be managed.
Mr. Vaux, your policy work is excellent, but from now on, all analysis will be submitted through my office for vetting before it reaches Mr. Silverson. We need to maintain a single, consistent message, which means centralized control.
Alek watched this exchange, leaning against the table, his expression unreadable. Eli didn't flinch or show offense. He simply nodded again.
Understood. I'll get that report to your digital assistant immediately.
Rowan felt a flicker of annoyance. Eli was too calm, too independent for a low-status Omega staffer. It was unnerving.
I need your eyes on everything, Rowan.
Alek finally spoke, drawing Rowan's attention back to the true Alpha in the room.
But Eli's work is my eyes and ears on the ground. Don't restrict his access to me. We will simply run his findings through your strategic filter. We're a team.
The instruction was delivered calmly, but it was an undeniable, soft assertion of dominance. Alek wasn't used to his orders being questioned, even by his new manager.
Of course, sir.
Rowan conceded, hating the necessity of backing down, but knowing the optics were critical. Control. His father's voice echoed in his head. Manage the Alpha. Don't argue with him. As Eli silently settled at a laptop across the room to project the transport data, Rowan launched into his carefully crafted presentation. He spoke of targeting the wealthy Alpha voters, of stability and tradition, the language Gareth Adams had taught him. He was masterful, efficient, and ruthlessly strategic. Alek listened, asked piercing questions, and occasionally glanced at Eli for input on the policy specifics. Rowan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being judged by two people, the powerful Alpha who paid him, and the quiet Omega who saw past the political noise to the numbers. He just hoped his expensive pine scent held up. Chapter 3. The Political Contradiction and a Glimmer of Principle. The launch of the revised messaging schedule, targeting small business owners and the soft Alpha vote, was held in a meticulously staged photo opportunity at the Eastridge Chamber of Commerce. Rowan was in his element. Dressed sharply, exuding confidence and his manufactured pine and leather Alpha scent, he spoke with clinical precision about the campaign's stability and commitment to economic growth. He stood beside Alek on the dais, the perfect picture of a competent, authoritative manager. Alek, however, kept undercutting Rowan's careful framing.
My opponent speaks of stability rooted in the past,
Alek told the press, his voice warm and commanding, his cold black cedar and crisp ozone scent dominating the room.
We speak of stability rooted in authentic growth. That's why we rely on the expertise of people who see the real problems on the ground, not just from the boardroom.
As if on cue, Alek gestured toward the edge of the stage where Eli Vox was quietly handing out data packets.
Mr. Vox's work,
Alek continued, without naming Eli's Omega designation, but making his low-status visibility impossible to ignore,
is essential to our grassroots commitment. We value his insight above inherited political wisdom.
Rowan felt a cold twist of professional dread. A political contradiction. Eli was everything Rowan had just argued against. He was low status, unbonded, and a visible Omega in a scene meant to appease Alpha voters. Rowan felt a surge of frustration. Alek was deliberately complicating the campaign's message, prioritizing authenticity over strategic necessity. Alek values the Omega's truth over my Alpha strategy, Rowan fumed internally. He felt professionally undermined and personally confused. The event ended, and the room dissolved into a controlled chaos of networking. Rowan was steering Alek toward a high-profile Alpha banker when a man intercepted them. Victor Thorne, a young, highly dominant Alpha heir from a tech dynasty, whose scent of sharp citrus and spice was aggressively loud. Thorne didn't look at Alek or Rowan. His gaze was fixed entirely on Eli, who was packing up his laptop.
Vox,
Thorne said, his tone casual but with an obviously possessive tone.
I hear you're the only one who can make sense of this policy noise. I'm hosting a few people at the Perch tonight. Come by. We can discuss the real numbers.
It wasn't a request. It was a subtle, alpha-coded summons. an obvious public display of romantic interest in the Omega. Eli, surprisingly, didn't seem intimidated. He simply offered a polite, professional smile.
Thank you, Mr. Thorne. I'll check my schedule and let you know.
Thorne gave a brief, arrogant nod, his loud scent sweeping over the three of them before he walked off. Rowan, the campaign manager obsessed with controlling optics, was horrified. An Omega staffer publicly courted by a rival Alpha heir was an amateur mistake and a massive liability. Rowan instinctively braced himself, expecting Alek to issue a swift, private reprimand to Eli about maintaining professional boundaries. Yet, Alek did nothing. He merely watched Eli return to his work, his expression completely unreadable. Later that evening, back in the relatively safe bubble of the campaign office, Rowan cornered Alek in the private study.
Sir, we need to address the Thorne issue.
Rowan began, his voice tight with strategic concern.
Eli Vox being publicly courted by a rival Alpha, particularly one with such close ties to the incumbent, is a risk. It implies a lack of control in this campaign, a political vulnerability.
Alek turned from the window, his expression calm.
What do you propose, Rowan? That I order him to refuse a social invitation?
I propose you suggest he maintains strict professional distance.
Rowan insisted.
Or, perhaps, find him a task that keeps him out of the public eye for a week. We cannot afford the optics of a political Omega dalliance.
Alek studied his manager, his eyes soft with a knowing understanding that made Rowan feel more than just uneasy.
I didn't interfere, Rowan,
Alek admitted, his tone quiet.
because Eli has confided in me that he has romantic feelings for Victor Thorne. And I respect his decision to pursue that.
Rowan blinked, his strategic certainty faltering.
You respect that? But sir, politically, it's a disaster. It's a conflict of interest, an unstable variable.
Alek crossed the room, stopping inches from Rowan, hands casual in the pockets of his dark pressed slacks.
And that is the difference between my approach and the traditional Alpha approach, Rowan,
Alek said, his voice dropping, carrying the magnitude of his personal code.
I do not use people as tools of social leverage. Eli has been starved for a genuine connection, and if he finds it in Victor Thorne, that is his choice, and I will respect it. I will not cheapen what the bond is meant to be, or what a connection is, by using my dominance to manage his romantic life.
Alek's principle was a sharp, clear knife, cutting through Rowan's political calculations. It exposed the depth of Alek's commitment to authentic freedom, the very freedom Rowan himself craved, but was too terrified to claim. Rowan felt a cold wave of realization. Alek was not just a politician. He was a man of radical, ethical conviction, and he had just stated that he would risk political stability to honor a low-status Omega's feelings for a rival Alpha. The effect on Rowan was profound. This wasn't professional undermining. It was a display of moral superiority. The dominant Alpha was prioritizing the Omega's choice over the campaign's success. Rowan felt the sharp sting of professional jealousy against Eli, not for his connection to Alek, but for his freedom to pursue another Alpha, a freedom Alek had championed and protected. Rowan swallowed, his voice barely a breath.
Understood, sir. I will find a way to mitigate the strategic damage.
He quickly left the study. He had thought Alek was idealistic. He now realized Alek was dangerously noble. And that nobility made Rowan's own lie, the Alpha mask he wore, feel utterly unworthy of the man he was starting to respect. Chapter 4. The Secret Unravels. The storm did not simply arrive, it devoured the horizon. One moment, the world outside the SUV was gold-washed farmland, docile and warm. The next, a violent bruise that spread across the sky. Thunder cracked suddenly like splitting bone. Rain slammed against the vehicle as if intent on forcing it off the narrow two-lane road. Rowan didn't flinch. He sat forward, posture perfect, hand gripping the armrest with white-knuckled restraint. But never fear. Fear was forbidden. Fear was beta, and betas did not survive in the worlds Rowan walked.
Reroute to shelter,
he told Alek coolly, already pulling up maps. Alek did not argue. The Meadowbrook Inn appeared through sheets of rain like a forgotten relic. Flickering neon, sagging roof. No security detail in sight. Rowan's instincts recoiled at the impending doom. The place looked like something from an old horror film where only the murderer wins. It smelled like vulnerability. It smelled like a threat to his identity. Inside, Alek secured the last available room. The carpet was damp from years of humidity. Outdated curtains hung over thin glass windows. The air, thick with bleach from the tired walls where the stubborn, sickly, smoky-sweet scent of old nicotine still clung in the molding. Cheap fragrance stung Rowan's nose, battling his own carefully curated scent. Pine, leather, dominance, fabricated certainty. He hated it. He hated that it was the type of place where truth could breach armor, where a beta's entire career, his life, could be shattered in a single instant.
I need to call Father,
Rowan said sharply, shrugging off his drenched coat with a tone of annoyance. His voice had a too tight edge that caught Alek's attention.
He'll want confirmation we weren't diverted by incompetence.
You survived a hurricane on wheels.
Alek said, shaking rain from his silver hair.
Not a scandal.
Rowan didn't respond. His heart was sprinting now. The air was enclosed, stale, wrong at every particulate level. Alphas with keen senses, alphas like Alek, in small, poorly ventilated rooms, were the worst risk. The ultimate risk.
I'll be 2 minutes.
His voice was low, urgent.
Please do not follow.
He disappeared into the bathroom. The lock slid into place. Water roared on full blast. Steam, cover, purification ritual. Alek assumed the steam-filled bathroom was to freshen Rowan's suit, having done so himself during times of unpredictability. Nothing more than a professional maintaining appearances, and thought little of it. Alek exhaled slowly, rolling his shoulders, soaked shirt clinging to him. His cedar and winter scent spread naturally through the space. Grounding, potent, unapologetically alpha. He hung his suit jacket close to the radiator and turned it on, the heat helping it and him to dry. He poured water into a glass. Steam wafted from under the bathroom door. And then it happened. A subtle disturbance in air pressure. A shift. The faintest breath of scent drifted out with the warmth. Not pine. Not leather. Soft. Clean. Vulnerable. Rain on paper. A beta's scent. It hit Alek like lightning. Quick, whisper thin, but undeniable. Then it vanished, smothered instantly by a blast of engineered pine as Rowan stepped out. Crisp shirt, still damp collar. Composure pieced back together like armor hammered over shaking bones. He spoke before Alek could.
Father is satisfied. Local press has been contacted. I've ensured we control the narrative.
His voice was controlled, even and confident. His pulse was not. Alek looked at him with those cut lavender glass eyes of his, not with shock or disgust, but with something far more dangerous. Recognition. Rowan straightened his tie with a controlled breath, the artificial alpha posture restored to perfection. Too precise. Too practiced. Alek's gaze continued to linger as he began to piece together the immaculate lie behind the man, certain elements locking into place that he filed away in his alpha brain in a box he couldn't yet label.
You did well,
he said finally in a soft, praising tone. Rowan froze. The smallest hiccup in his movement. He hadn't expected gentleness.
Our setback,
Alek continued, watching Rowan carefully.
Might work in our favor. People love resilience.
Yes, sir.
Silence thickened. The storm battered relentlessly against the thin windows. Inside, another storm gathered. Quiet. Seismic. Alek turned toward the dark, condensation-framed edges of the window, voice level, but alive with something new. Something protective and territorial.
Get some rest, Rowan. No one is judging us here. Tomorrow we'll come early.
Rowan's breath caught. Barely, but Alek heard it anyway. Then, in a moment of muted panic, Rowan's eyes darted across the room like a cornered animal cataloging exits. Bed, floor, armchair, window. Nowhere safe.
Where, sir?
Alek blinked once. Slow. As though he hadn't anticipated the question. Then, gentle certainty.
The bed, Rowan.
The answer lodged in Rowan's chest like a misfired bullet.
No. You need rest more than I do. Sir, your speech.
I'll manage.
Alek's voice softened without losing authority. Infuriatingly steady.
Lie down.
Rowan didn't move. A direct challenge. Alek's jaw ticked. Not irritation. Patience weighed down by concern. It threatened to split Rowan down the center.
Rowan.
Low. Commanding. Compassion disguised as steel authority.
Sleep.
Rowan's throat worked. Pride snarled inside him. But exhaustion, emotional, physical, existential, they pulled harder. He nodded once, clipped, obedient despite himself.
Yes, sir.
He changed quietly, back turned, pajamas unfolded, toothbrush tapping porcelain in rhythm with the thunder outside. Composure ritual. Survival ritual. He lay down stiffly, as if the sheets were a deadly battlefield. The mattress dipped under him, soft, unwanted, and intimate. No good alpha relaxed first. No exposed throat. No scent slip. Not again. So Rowan folded himself on the very edge, spine iron straight, hands folded on his chest like he was preparing for burial rather than sleep. He said nothing. Not a complaint. Not a sigh. Silence was safer than truth. Chapter 4.5 The Secret Unravels. Alek's Point of View. Alek sat at the small inn desk in that humid, outdated little room, a speech projected on the tablet before him. Meaningless shapes, lines, and promises with no real weight compared to the man breathing shallowly 10 feet away. Rowan, the immaculate mask of ambition. Rowan, who stood like stone and shook like glass behind it. Rowan, who was Beta, and had become a lie to embolden the Adams family reputation. Rowan, the very demographic he was catering to, who argued against his own interest just to fill a role to be used by the same people who should cherish him. How many years had he carried this? How many nights had he slept like this? Armor on, even unconscious. Alek felt something cold, nauseating, and lethal in his gut. Not anger at Rowan. Anger for him. For what he was forced to become. Forced to endure. Alone. Unsupported. Yet here he was, refusing to be broken. Protectiveness surged. Primal, territorial, entirely inappropriate. Moss, wilderness, and hearthstone warmth stirred in his scent, rising instinctively like a shield thrown around something precious. He shut his eyes. He could not let Rowan feel that. Not tonight. Not when Rowan was already cracking beneath the weight of every expectation ever placed on him. Still, the emotion leaked. Subtle, raw, impossible to cage. A scent meant only for moments of deepest vulnerability and devotion. Intimacy. Rowan's head shifted on the pillow, just barely. Breath hitched. He felt it. Alek turned away, digging nails into his palm. He had wanted power. A legacy of his own. A dynasty etched into history. Now, he wanted something else entirely. A world where Rowan didn't have to bleed for the right to exist. The storm howled outside. But inside, only Rowan's quiet breathing and the unspoken war inside Alek's chest existed. Rowan's point of view. Unwanted midnight visitor. Not asleep. Couldn't sleep. Rowan lay absolutely still, eyes closed, senses straining. Power radiated from Alek. Not the kind of power that moved nations, the kind that held broken things as if they mattered. Warmth seeped across the room. His traitorous chest ached, and his eyes instinctively cracked open. He saw Alek in the dark, sitting behind a laptop screen that illuminated the angles of his face, making him look colder, if that was even possible. But that fierce expression, combined with the unexpected warm scent that soothed his soul, pulled at him. What was going through Alek's mind? No one had ever looked at him like that. No one ever would again, if he ran. But he stayed. He stayed and closed his eyes. The storm did not ease. It only burrowed deeper into the bones of the world. By midnight, thunder wasn't thunder anymore. It was memory. Rowan didn't drift into sleep. He fell into it, dragged under like prey into deep water. And then Complete darkness, cold, unforgiving. A voice sharp as a lash.
Stand straight if you want to be worth anything.
Another.
Weakness is death in politics. You were born wrong. Fix it.
His father's hand striking him so hard across the cheek, his body turned with the force.
I did not raise a beta. Betas serve. Betas kneel. You will never.
A scent-smothering choke. Shame, metallic in the back of his teeth.
You don't get to want. You owe. You claw your way up or you disappear.
Then, silence. Until Rowan was choking, trapped, gasping for breath that wouldn't come. His patch burned on his skin, his lungs locked, his hands clawed at phantom restraints in the sheets. He heard himself whimper, hated himself for it, and it echoed in the small room like a resounding gunshot. Chapter 5. A Secret Protected. Alek wasn't asleep. Couldn't sleep. Something in him stayed attuned. Hunter's instinct, protector's vigilance, or maybe something older, more primitive. Rowan's breath turned sharp, panicked. Then a broken sound. Small, involuntary, devastating. Alek was out of his chair before the sound finished leaving Rowan's throat. He crossed the room silently, kneeling at the bedside like a knight at an altar.
Rowan,
He murmured first, soft and testing. Rowan jolted, swallowed by the nightmare, hands trembling violently as he tried to pull away from invisible hands that were no longer there. His scent shattered. Ink, rain, and terror under the pine mask fighting to stay intact. Alek reached, not to restrain the man, only to help, to aid, to calm. His fingers brushed Rowan's shoulder, slow, reassuring warmth.
Rowan,
He said again, voice pitched steady as stone left out in the sun.
it's all right. You're safe.
Rowan gasped awake, sitting bolt upright, chest heaving. For one raw instant, no mask, no posture, just fear and exhaustion and a secret that had been crushing him since birth. He saw Alek and flinched, like Alek was the danger, like all alphas only ever meant pain. It broke something ancient and furious inside Alek's ribs. The sudden urge to protect his floundering campaign manager, even from himself, was unlike anything he'd ever experienced in his social and private life.
I'm sorry.
Rowan whispered, voice splintering.
I didn't mean. I won't.
Alek didn't touch him again. Not without permission.
Breathe.
He said calmly, like giving instructions to stop time.
In. Now hold. Slow release.
Rowan obeyed, instinctively. But his hands still shook. His heart still raced, and his scent pulsed weak and frightened beneath the suppressor patch, like a tiny bird hitting glass. Alek lifted one hand, then paused.
May I sit?
He asked quietly. Rowan blinked, confused and vulnerable, not used to being asked anything that remotely sounded like permission. He nodded once. Alek moved, sank onto the edge of the mattress, close, but not touching, though he wanted to. But to do so would shatter everything Rowan had fought tooth and nail for. It was respect that held Alek back. a silent guard dog between Rowan and every ghost of his past.
You don't owe me an explanation,
Alek murmured.
Nightmares are old wounds talking. That's all.
Rowan's fingers dug in the blanket.
I don't have nightmares.
Alek's expression softened, amused in a tragic, aching way.
No. He agreed. Of course not.
Rowan looked down, throat working, humiliation hot in his scent despite the mask. Don't, Alek said, voice low, dangerous in its tenderness.
Don't punish yourself for what someone else carved into you.
Rowan's breath stuttered. A beat of silence, then, barely audible.
You weren't supposed to see that.
I know.
Alek's voice gentled.
But I needed to.
Rowan looked up sharply, startled. Fear, hope, suspicion all colliding together that made his stomach tighten and his shoulders tense. Alek held Rowan's confused blue gaze and gave him the truth, quiet and deadly sincere.
People who pretend strength are predictable. People who survive despite being told they shouldn't. They change the world.
Rowan's lips parted. No breath, no answer. Just that raw desperation of someone starved for validation and terrified to swallow it.
And tonight,
Alek finished softly.
You don't sleep alone.
Rowan swallowed hard.
Sir.
Not touching,
Alek reassured.
just there.
Just there. The only promise Rowan had never been given, but always needed. A comforting presence. And right now, all Rowan could see was Alek, attempting to protect him in his own sort of way. A fake Alpha. Did Alek know? Had he pieced the puzzle pieces together? No. Alek was being too gentle for such a discovery. So Rowan relaxed and allowed comfort to wrap around him. He needed it, but dared not say how much it meant.
Rest now,
Alek murmured, voice barely above a whisper. Rowan lay back down slowly, as if gravity was unfamiliar now. He faced away from Alek, but the lines of his body softened, shoulders releasing, jaw unclenching. Alek leaned back against the headboard, arms crossed, hands tucked away. He was steady as a wall, eyes open to this new storm, and greedily read the quiet inside it. Rowan's breathing slowed, evened, settled. Trust wasn't spoken here. It was breathed. And in the half-dark, in the quietest moment of their war with the world, they both surrendered. A little. Chapter 6. The Observer. The week after the storm, the campaign office felt taut. Rowan was working with a manic, almost desperate efficiency, his focus on the strategic win absolute as he attempted to bury that night at the inn in the past. Alek, meanwhile, was subtly different, more watchful of his manager. His eyes, cut lavender glass, lingering on Rowan in small, meaningful ways. The truth of that night remaining unsaid. Locked away, pressed between Rowan's fear and Alek's respect. Eli, sorting through data models in his quiet corner, was the first to notice. It started with the scents. Eli used his own scent blockers out of habit, but his Omega nose was still sharp. He'd learned to filter out the cacophony of manufactured smells in the political world. Rowan's usual scent, the loud, sharp pine and leather, was always pervasive, aggressively alpha. But now, when Alek was around, the cold cedar seemed stabilized. One afternoon, Colden Silverson, Alek's imposing father, swept into the campaign office unannounced, radiating heavy pine and ozone, the scent of a pure, dominant, old money alpha. He cornered Rowan near the water cooler, immediately putting the younger man under severe scrutiny.
Adams, your latest memo on the beta voter outreach was tepid,
Colden stated, his voice a low growl designed to intimidate.
I expect fire, not lukewarm suggestions. What the hell are you doing, boy?
Rowan stiffened, his professional façade cracking under the pressure. Eli's eyes widened. He could practically see the frantic effort it took for Rowan to maintain his scent profile, the fear of his disguise failing under the harsh gaze of a true dominant alpha. A second later, Alek was there. He moved smoothly, effortlessly, stepping up behind Rowan as if to retrieve something from a filing cabinet. As he did, Alek's powerful, grounding scent of black cedar and clean winter ozone bloomed in the immediate area. It wasn't aggressive, but it was all-encompassing. It perfectly contained the small area, saturating the air with its genuine, effortless authority. Colden Silverson's intense scrutiny faltered, diverted by the presence of his son's formidable, real alpha scent. "Father," Alek said, his tone polite but curt.
Rowan's strategy is sound. We need a nuanced approach for the beta demographic, not a fire we can't sustain. You have questions, direct them to me.
Colden grumbled, obviously annoyed.
Don't make me come back down here again.
The older alpha snapped.
And don't forget who pays the bills around here. I'll call you later, Alek. Be sure to pick up this time.
With that, Colden took his leave, his dominance neutralized by his son's calm assertion. As soon as Colden was gone, Alek retrieved a completely random file, offered Rowan a brief, tight nod, and walked back to his office. He hadn't touched Rowan, hadn't openly defended him, but he had used his own biological authority as a shield. Rowan, unaware of the subtle maneuver, simply smoothed his tie, relieved to have escaped the interrogation, and resumed his work with renewed vigor. Eli, however, watched the exchange from his desk with narrowed, painfully observant eyes. Alek Silverson just masked his campaign manager. Alphas with Alek's level of control and pedigree simply didn't perform scent-blocking maneuvers for their staff unless they were protecting an Omega in heat. Which Rowan, the alpha man, certainly wasn't. Eli knew Alek was idealistic, but this was beyond strategy. This was personal protection. Later that evening, after Rowan had left, Eli approached Alek's desk with a stack of polling data.
Alek?
Eli began, whispering, keeping his voice low.
Yes, Eli?
Alek looked up, his expression guarded, expecting a policy question.
I just wanted to say, I appreciate your handling of Mr. Silverson Sr. this afternoon,
Eli said, avoiding direct reference to the alpha confrontation.
It was protective.
Alek leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms, his demeanor shifting from the powerful alpha to the weary man.
Rowan is under immense pressure from his family. My father's tactics are often counterproductive. I simply ensured my manager could focus on his job.
Perhaps,
Eli conceded gently, placing the poll data on the desk. He hesitated, then added the thought that had been nagging him all day.
It's just the way you contained the space, the way you used your scent. It's usually to calm or to claim, never just to obscure another alpha, unless that alpha wasn't real.
Eli didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. He just let the observation hang in the air, allowing Alek to connect the dots. The quiet Omega, who saw the world in cold data and inconvenient truths, had noticed the massive, secret shift in the hierarchy.
Eli,
Alek said, his voice quiet and firm.
whatever you may observe about the dynamics in this office, my focus, and your focus, remains on the campaign and the data. Understood?
It wasn't a threat, but a command delivered with the full, serious authority of the dominant alpha. It wasn't about dominance. It was about trust and secrecy. Eli understood immediately that he wasn't just observing a protective boss. He was observing a man protecting a massive political liability. And perhaps something he was beginning to cherish.
Understood, Mr. Silverson.
Eli confirmed with a quiet nod, accepting the role of silent confidant. Chapter 7. A Small Confession. It was late Friday evening. The campaign was running a relentless schedule, and Rowan, despite his perfect façade, was nearing his breaking point. He'd spent the day fielding aggressive, pointed questions from his father about the campaign's slow progress with elite alpha donors, all while maintaining his strenuous scent regimen. He was in Alek's private office, ostensibly working, but really just catching his breath while the candidate finished a final phone call. Rowan sat in the expensive leather chair, his jacket still on, his hands clasped tight in his lap. The office was dimly lit and still permeated with the now comforting black cedar and cold ozone of Alek's pheromones. The moment Alek hung up the phone, Rowan stood abruptly.
Sir, I have updated the donor list. I cross-referenced the names against every known political leanings index. I found 5 key alpha families we can target next week. They're all manageable and highly susceptible to...
Rowan stopped. His voice had cracked. He squeezed his eyes shut for a sharp moment, the stress of the week finally overwhelming the carefully constructed alpha wall he maintained.
Highly susceptible to what, Rowan?
Alek prompted softly. Rowan turned away, walking to the large window overlooking the city lights. He gripped the sill so hard his knuckles turned white. He couldn't risk turning back. He felt the pine and leather scent thinning, the fake alpha veneer dissolving under the heat of his exhaustion.
To flattery and false promises, sir.
Rowan finally whispered. The words were bitter at the edges. A bitterness that had nothing to do with the donors and everything to do with himself. A counterfeit. He took a slow, deliberate breath, trying to regain his composure.
I apologize, sir. It's been a long week. The pressure to...
He cut himself off again, unable to finish the sentence. To be an alpha who can deliver the win, was what he was going to say.